It's a really tough act to follow when somebody's talking about flying cars and flying taxis. And what I'm going to talk about now is fintech. And I'm trying to convince you that using the phrase nasty fintech is a good thing. A couple of weeks ago, I was talking about nasty fintech at Copenhagen Money 2020. I really confused the audience by this concept. So if anybody's lost halfway through, please put your hand up and we'll actually sort of try and explain the concept a little bit slower. Now, bit of audience participation. Who's from the fintech industry? Okay. Who's from banking? Who wishes they were never in banking? Okay. Okay. What I want to talk about is post-truth banking and nasty fintech. First of all, something about post-truth. Post-truth was, I think, in 2016, the Oxford English Dictionary's word of the year. It means relating to or denoting circumstances in which objective fact is less influential in shaping public opinion that appeals to emotion or personal belief. 2016 was the year that emotion trumped fact. It was the year of fake news. It was a year in which everybody was wound up into feeling and thinking about things in a totally different way. And where does the word nasty come from? Well, I think in a debate between Trump and Clinton, Trump called Clinton the nasty woman. And 2016 was a tough year. You know, in the UK, we had the Brexit vote. You know, we had the Trump election in the States. But what happened when Trump called Clinton the nasty woman? It was a whole range of people across the world who started protesting. They started protesting against post-truth, against lies. And the opposite to post-truth is not truth. It is pushing back against those things we think are false. And I'm proud of being nasty fintech. We are part of a group of people who are actually pushing back against what's become false with fact. And this works at many very different levels. As a banker of 30 years that went through the financial crisis of 2008 and out again and finding that nothing had changed, I quit my job in 2014 to start a bank. And Starling Bank is now a new bank, part of the fintech era. We're all pushing back against post-truth. And what are we pushing back with? We're pushing back with artificial intelligence. We're pushing back with understanding data better. And what we're doing is unbundling an industry. I spent 30 years in banks, cross-selling, upselling, and occasionally being accused of mis-selling. It was all about capturing a customer. And when you captured a customer, you felt you owned a customer, and you tried to sell more and more. The new world is about realizing the customer knows best. The customer has all this information. The customer will go to the right provider for the right product at the right time. We have the unbundling of financial services. I came to the conclusion that most industries had changed. People shop differently. People bought music differently. But financial services hadn't changed. What we'd actually done was to take the same experience and moved it from one interface to the next. It started out with somebody going into a branch, a banking branch, and filling out forms and keying it into a system. Then those same systems went on to the contact center. Then they went to the web. Then they went to the app. It hasn't really changed. What we're doing at Starling is launching a bank on an app. This is the start of the change of financial services, not the end. What we have at the moment, if somebody could play the video, is quite simple but effective. It's all about letting people understand their day-to-day transactions. It's all about having to have control over your debit card. It's all about getting notifications about how you spend your money. But what we're doing is creating data. A Starling bank account has access into payment systems. It has access to all the data from the card schemes. And what we're doing is augmenting that data with lots of information about who you are and what you're doing, if you want that to be the case. Once we have that data about your day-to-day financial life, we use artificial intelligence and machine learning to give you insights, so that we know that when you go to the airport, you're either going to holiday or you're going on a business trip. But depending on the patterns of behavior, we can actually tell, hopefully, whether it's a holiday or business. We can tell whether you'll have enough money until the end of the week, the end of the month, the end of your life. And we'll use that data to give you insights and recommend products from other vendors, other providers on a marketplace. And we'll connect to those other products on the marketplace by means of APIs. And those APIs will be PSD2 compliant. Now, for those not in the know, but probably this audience is a fintech banking audience, Payment Services Directive 2 is probably the most important piece of legislation in banking that there's ever been. It will allow organizations to break apart, banks to break apart, and allow certain parts of the value chain provided by different providers. So your bank app may be provided by one bank and the back end by another. And they'll be linked together using the tools that the rest of the tech industry uses, APIs. But the most important thing is that it allows banking to become invisible. At the moment, Starling Bank is the first UK challenger bank to actually deliver full-service APIs to consumers across Europe. That proposition was delivered to market several months ago. We connect into payment schemes. We are PSD2 ready, and we have a marketplace. So you're probably thinking, what's new about that? Well, we're actually the first people doing it. But what we're starting a movement to disappear. We're starting a movement for invisible banking. Because I think that the bank of the future won't exist in an app. It won't exist in the web. It'll disappear into everything else. If we think about 5 years, 10 years' time, I think the whole concept of doing banking, making a payment, logging onto your app, and making a payment or executing a transaction will disappear. It'll become part of everything else. You'll walk into a shop, and you'll walk out with the goods, and you will pay for it without noticing, and you'll have a feeling, perhaps, of how good your bank balance is. And PSD2 could make that happen faster than we think. Of course, the big banks have a huge interest in PSD2 not happening. Delaying it would allow the banks to hang on to the current revenue pools. But everything else in our life has changed, and banking hasn't changed, and we have to make it happen. So, in the UK, we are front-running the implementation of PSD2 as open banking. And open banking, which is being tested at the moment in the UK, and PSD2 will come very quickly soon after it across Europe, could mean that your front end to your bank is no longer your app or your web application. It may be Google, it may be Facebook. And do you want that? Well, the merchants may want it. Because with PSD2, it's far easier to use ACH rails, non-card rails, than use your Visa and your MasterCard. There may be forces out there that find this very attractive. So, what do I think is going to happen? I think we're going to have some large organizations breaking up and fragmenting as the value chain for the first time ever is challenged. Banking has been the same for hundreds of years. We could have a view of the future where the value chain breaks and we have marketplaces where people come together to deliver the right solution to our customers. Okay, so a bit of a story about why I'm up here today talking at a conference like this. This is not a typical conference for a CEO of a bank. I founded Starling in 2014. It's a long process to get a banking license, but this year we entered the App Store with our app. Many think that that's the end of the story, but for us, it's the beginning. It gives us the infrastructure to do something very exciting and very different across Europe in the coming years. Thank you very much. And I hope that, sort of in a year or so, I'm coming back to talk about launching in Germany. Thank you very much.
We have time for 2 questions. If anyone has a fintech question for Anne. Yeah. Go ahead and talk into the box.
Will do, okay. So I'm obviously a Briton as well, and I know that in the UK we are quite forward-thinking when it comes to how we pay for things.
Yep.
Usually we're very early adopters, but obviously a country like Germany, which is very cash-intensive, how are you going to basically address that and hopefully break down some of those kind of old ways of doing banking here?
Yeah, money is very, very personal. And people's relationship with money and cash varies across Europe. In some countries, they pay for everything under €1 in a sort of with a card, and in some countries, such as Italy, they take huge stacks of cash out, whatever. And in some countries, like the Netherlands, payment is very cheap, and in Spain, it's very expensive. This is all about emotion. And I think that we have to connect across Europe to the emotions people feel about money. And it's all about trust. If you think of some of the technologies and some of the social media developments across Europe, those are engaging everyone. And we have to consider it in the same sort of way. I think that money and banking will move beyond banks and become part of everything else. And I think that's going to be, it's going to vary from country by country. But I think it's more than money. It's about the whole experience. And although people in certain countries have a certain emotional connection with money in a country, I think the greater thing about social and about new experiences will overtake that.
Okay, thanks.
Got one more question. Way in the back. Can you throw it that far? Oh, we got another box coming for her. She gets the black box.
So I live in London as well, and I've noticed that there's quite a lot of apps like this coming out right now. So how are you going to differentiate yourself from other apps, such as Monzo, for example?
Yeah, I think there was a report published yesterday saying that we were probably one of the leading apps in the marketplace. But the fact that there are lots of us is a good thing. Okay, as an individual, sort of bank, we can't create a movement. But when there's lots of us all pushing in the same direction, it's good for us all. So we don't compete against each other. We compete against the incumbents, and that's the important thing.
Thank you.
Awesome. And we've got a question up here in the front. Find our little box here.
As a global citizen living abroad studying, it's been a huge hassle for me to transfer money abroad. How are you trying to tackle that issue with your product?
Yeah, let's take the example of, sort of the banks had the monopoly, really, in the whole end-to-end value chain. With the fragmentation, with breaking down the value chain into different companies that do just one thing very, very well, the consumer wins. You've got companies such as TransferWise that are doing great things in offering fantastic value for customers in transferring money overseas. Value for money and reliability. And we are partnering with companies such as TransferWise in our marketplace. It's all about having the right firm in the right place to actually satisfy customer demand. But this is all about doing the right thing for customers, and it's all about listening.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Anne.
Thank you.